If he were alive, Kenshiro had to meet him. He was one of the two Hokuto brothers that Jaggi claimed were still alive. The man who harnessed Hokuto Shinken's power as a healing art. The man that Kenshiro respected most in the whole world. If he were alive, he had to meet him. Kenshiro left Jaggi and continued on his journey to secure his place as the rightful heir to his art. To bear witness to the man who dreamed of easing the masses' suffering. That man's name was Toki.
Hokuto Shinken can be more than just an assassin's art. It has the power to heal.
I must see you. You above all, Toki.
Chapter 5. The Star That Beckons Chaos.
I'll say it again. Hokuto Shinken is invincible.
Have you heard of the Village of Miracles? They say there used to be a healer there who could cure any disease with a single touch.
A single touch. That must be Toki.
It's Toki's army! They're hunting for fresh victims for his experiments!
All right, you maggots! Who here is tough enough to take me on?
Well, that went downhill really fast. Hey, did you hear about Toki's village? And then, oh no, Toki's a murderer. We better go see what's up with that. So I'm not sure, but I think this is the first time that we can use stone pillars that we break off of street signs. I think this is the first time. This particular weapon reminds me a lot of another beat-em-up called Undercover Cops, where you pick up giant stone pillars out of the ground because it's the apocalypse or something. There aren't that many enemies in this opening area, and they're all spread kind of far apart. They're all in a circle around the villagers, but it's a very wide circle. So are the villagers in real danger? Yeah, sure. But you'd also have to be pretty incompetent to let all of them die.
Help me!
Alright, so I hope you guys like unintentional humor. Now that platform falls regardless of how you step on it, but the idea they were going for is that you would just run across it, try to get the guys with the arrows, and then fall down to your death. Well, not your death, but just fall down. I decided I would try to circumvent this by dashing jump kicking my way across the gap, and that didn't end very well for me. This level does contain a few other instances of this same trap, and you'll get to actually see me successfully evade one right here. The mid-air dashing kick is very useful for platforming, and Ken is the only one who can perform it. The other characters do have mid-air attacks, of course, but none of them are makeshift long jumps like Ken's is. And they intended you to use Ken's mid-air kick as a long jump, and you'll see what I mean later. But for now, here's a little extra area you couldn't get to unless you saw the trap coming and jumped over it. There's no mission bonuses in here, but still. It's another opportunity to learn how to get around the trap instead of just falling for it. And here's one of my favorite uses of physics objects in the entire game. No matter what you do, it's pretty much a guarantee that these guys in the corner will die to those barrels. They just keep flopping up against the wall over and over until they die.
Maybe my fists could do something about this bridge.
I do really love the boulder splitting wave, in case you can't tell. You haven't been able to see it used for many practical purposes, but you will shortly. We're gonna get rid of it soon, but before we do, I'll make sure it has its time in the limelight. This stage is a bit of a weird transition in the gameplay. It's the one that has the most gimmicks, I think. But that's because it's trying to get you used to the idea that this isn't a straight-up brawler, as you might have come to expect.
Good luck hitting us from there!
Now, of course, the solution here is obvious. We just throw these spears that are lying around. They might want to think a bit more about where they put their weapons, but they don't really seem like the thinking type, do they? Now, you might think we need to backtrack to get more spears, but no. I'm just going back here for some skill points. There are actually spears much closer to the enemies. And that's why I'm going to ignore the enemy and the spears and run straight past them so I can show you a new physics object. It behaves the same as the others, but it is new. The tires! We don't see them very often, but they bounce around in a way I really like. Here's some more skill points, and now we'll finally go get those other spears. I just thought it was important to note that they bothered programming different physics properties in depending on what the object was, like tires bounce around in a way that is predictably a lot more elastic and rubbery than, say, these barrels we've been hitting everyone with. I don't know if this was meant to be an introduction to throwing objects at enemies, maybe it was. But ideally you would have figured this out long ago.
Yeah! Take them all out!
I have to get up to where they are. There must be something I can use.
The game is really keen on giving you a lot of hints for the most basic puzzles and, well, interactions with the environment besides punching them. But as I said, that's because this came from a series where, well, there's mostly punching and really nothing else. So there are two other characters that come to this exact stage. There are Mamiya and Ray. And Mamiya and Ray both go through that section with the guards up in the tower. Ray throws the spears at them just like Kenshiro, but Mamiya has a gun, well, a crossbow. So she just uses that. In fact, Mamiya's use of a crossbow makes it really easy to bypass almost half of the gimmicks in this level. So you can kind of destroy it with her. Thankfully, there is something special she gets out of this level that neither of the other two do. That's a hint that we'll be playing as Mamiya soon. Anyway, this section wasn't so bad. Except for the part where these guys sniped us off these shipping containers. But they're dead now, so everything's better. So you remember pushing and pulling the statues, and I think it was the last level? Well, now we can push and pull platforms instead. It's the same principle, except now we jump on them. We get to do this a few more times, but it's always very simple, and it never turns into a block-pushing puzzle or anything. These mechanics and the platforming are really just meant to be breathers in between the combat. If you recall Prince of Persia, the combat was for a breather in between the platforming. Just think of it like the reverse for this game. Please note that this parallel doesn't work if you count the sequels of either game. That guy just stood there and watched that happen, and he didn't seem even a little bit intimidated. It bears saying again that while the commanders were something special and almost difficult back when the game started, now they're really nothing of a challenge. They're gonna have to spice up the commanders a little bit. Hint.
Now we'll have some fun!
Oh hey, here you get to watch me use the Awakening of the Senses entirely wrong. Don't worry, I'll use it properly in the next level. But I did it way wrong here. I guess I was just showing it off because making you wait another level before you see it in action seemed kind of cruel. Oh hey, there's a commander here. I almost forgot about him. I guess we should do something about that. I don't actually know of any characters who can block this kind of weaponry. Nobody comes to mind. Not even the bosses.
You look like you keep yourself in pretty good shape.
I'll take you
How'd you
on.
like to help Master Toki with his experiments?
So this area just has a whole domino of explosive barrels. And you can guess for yourself why that would be fun to play with. Oh, hey, another commander. I mistook you for a normal enemy. I'm sorry. That's okay, I have something special for you. Once again, you may be thinking, does that ever get old? And the answer is still no. Something I didn't mention about the commanders before is that it's possible for them to summon the normal enemies to come toward them and cover them. And I guess that kind of works if you're trying to use the Fist of Penitence on them. But usually a quick sweeping kick from good old Ken will deal with them, and then you can get back to beating up the commander one-on-one. Or you can just get really good at aiming the Fist of Penitence. Either of those work. Now, I was debating saving some of the explosive barrels to use on these enemies that are sniping at us, but I saw the perfect opportunity to kick the commander into them, and I couldn't waste that. Into the explosive barrels, I mean, not into those enemies. That would be quite a feat.
It's Toki's army! They're hunting for fresh victims for his experiments!
You know, considering how powerful Toki is, I really doubt he would need an army. Because holy shit is he ever strong. But you'll see that for yourself. I keep trying to taunt these guys, but something's going wrong. You taunt by pressing both the block button and the L3 button at the same time. I must have been pressing the L1 button too early. And here is a perfectly intentional use of the softness ripping slash with some physics objects. We obliterated those tires and that car. The softness ripping slash just sends enemies absolutely flying, and I love it.
You want to go to the Village of Miracles? I wouldn't if I were you. That Toki's no healer. He's psychotic. He gathers up villagers and uses them as subjects in his twisted experiments. It's awful.
No, that's impossible.
And a bit of a flub from Ken's usually flawless voice acting, but I'm gonna have to agree with him. Something doesn't seem right here. There's no way that Toki would just run around murdering innocent people.
Master Toki's orders! You're just what he's looking for!
This is the first time we're given an actual time limit to get rid of all the enemies. And they give us this nice pit over here to throw them into. Just if we want to, entirely optional. It is kind of the opposite of challenging. There are several different waves of enemies, but they all spawn in the same place every time. So you can memorize their locations instantly. Now the first time I played this game, and I mean the very first time, I got the timer down to 1 minute and 30 seconds. But I was also obsessively, and I mean obsessively, trying to get every single one of them to fall into the pit. If you're even a little bit good at action games, you should be able to finish this before the 3-minute mark is up.
Master Toki will have some real fun with you.
Oh my, what's this? 2 commanders at the same time? Yes, and I actually got my ass handed to me the first time this happened because I didn't store up my spirit mode. So from here on out, many commanders will appear in pairs. And the easiest strategy to defeat them is, of course, to take one of them out with the Fist of Penitence, and then just beat the other one how you would normally. Well, not normally, but abnormally. Please note that the commanders are not afraid to gang up on you, and both of them will attack you at the same time. So if for some reason you don't have your spirit gauge handy, you can just grab an enemy and throw them into the nearest object. Don't have any spirit reserve units handy though? No problem. Grab an enemy and run into the other enemies with them. That's the quickest way to fill up your spirit reserve. And then you have one Fist of Penitence waiting for you. Now, if there are 2 commanders around, and there are no goons, no physics objects, and no other weaponry, well then you're just fucked. But thankfully that won't ever happen. No matter what situation you're in, there's always a way to take out at least one of the commanders very quickly, so you can focus on the second one without issue. And if you're ever struggling against a single commander and there's nothing around to throw at him, and you don't have any Spirit Reserve units handy, always remember, the second attack in your uppercut kick, it always breaks the enemy's block, 100% of the time. No exceptions. So after that somewhat unique challenge, they figure you're in the mood to just fight a bunch of normal goons with a ton of physics objects laying around. And that's what they give you. Just a whole bunch of bad guys and a whole bunch of physics objects and literally nothing else.
What's the matter? Scared?
It's good fun. And there is actually quite an abundance of enemies that spawn here, so it may also have been intended to get your Spirit Reserve units back up if you use them all on the commanders back there. Which we didn't. But you know, an extra 2 Spirit Reserve units are always welcome. Now up here is one of my favorite platforming sections in the game because it actually requires some skill and independent thought. There is a hidden mission bonus across all these platforms. But if you fall down to the ground, you will never be able to reach it. You'd have to restart the level. It's physically impossible to make it across these platforms unless you use Ken's mid-air kick. But if you use his mid-air kick at the wrong time, you'll get shot right out of the air by the archers. So you have to time it very carefully. And again, if you screw up, it's time to restart the level. Thankfully, we did perfectly well. I just like that one because it's not combat focused, but it doesn't hold your hand, unlike most of the non-combat focused mechanics in this game. It's either you do it right, or you fucked up and you have to start over. And that's kind of refreshing. Also, the facial features of each commander is random. They can have different decorations. But I love this guy. I love his hat and I love his sunglasses. It's great. Alright, now with that out of the way, we can get back to platforming outside of this area in a much more lenient fashion. I'm not sure if there's ever another platforming challenge like that, but there are some rather difficult challenges coming up, and you'll know when we see them, because I'll tell you. And by coming up, I mean in the next few levels, not in this one. We're almost done with the gimmicks for this level, I think. Hey, I could be wrong. And again, I don't mean gimmicks in a negative sense. I think the attempts to add variety are actually really fun, unlike a few other games that try to add variety beyond their combat, and they end up kind of screwing it up. But this one does it pretty well. It's easy, but that's probably part of why it's done so well.
Wait right there! You're done!
Another 2 commanders, and the same strategy applies here that did before. From here on out, you always want to save your spirit gauge for these guys. Not that you are going to use it on the normal enemies, probably, but I'm just saying it's a good idea to save it now. Now we have our spirit gauge back, but no Spirit Reserve units. That's okay, we know how to deal with commanders one-on-one. It's called the uppercut kick, and we just keep doing it. I honestly think that was a much better trap than any of the ones the Fang clan pulled off. Instead of leading us into a very obvious enclosed place, they just turn a corner and oh shit, a bunch of archers. I can tell you for sure that it worked the first time I played, there's no doubt about that. They just pounded the shit out of me. It's almost time for the maze-like part of the level, and really, what would a Kin's Rage level be without one? It's almost as important as screaming villagers. You just need it. Coming down this alternate pathway yields skill points, as you just saw, and some Spirit Reserve units. Those are going to come in very handy very shortly. This may look like a dead end, but surely you remember our good friend Breakable Wall. Only one of the walls actually needs to be broken, but after we break this next one... Oh no, there were guys just hanging out on the roof waiting. Fortunately, we knew they were coming, and not even this guy's sweet, fuzzy... What is that pink thing? But anyway, not even that can save him from immediate death. Well, not immediate. It takes a whole 3 seconds, but I think that's immediate enough. We're not in the business of strict timekeeping here. I wonder if in some dystopian future there's some sort of quiz for that. So they can find out which people are better at telling time and better at keeping track of things. Like they show my video. They ask how long it is, and anyone who answers 30 minutes just dies on the spot. If you answer 32 minutes, you get to live. If you answer 32 minutes and 7 seconds, you get to be part of their army. Congratulations. There's supposed to be another commander that spawns in here, but out of curiosity, I wanted to see if I could skip that and run straight to the boss fight without fighting him. So that's what we're doing right now. We're just running to see how far we can get. And... Nope, wrong way. And of course the gate is closed. There wasn't even a gate there that I was aware of, but now there is. So let's head back and get that commander. After all, we kept him waiting long enough. I'm sure he wants to die. I mean, look at that fucking bag on his face.
Master Toki will really make something out of you. Son Kaiken.
You are already dead.
If you must go this way, then you will have to defeat me first.
Listen, I really don't want to hurt your feelings, man, but that's not much of a threat. I just fought another one of you, and then a fat version of you. And both of them died really fast. Oh, you're gone.
Come, Kenshiro. Violence is good.
Why? What happened to you, Toki?
I once saved your life. You owe me your very existence. You know you can't attack me. It would be against your precious principles, right, Kenshiro?
Hokuto, Son Kaiken.
You are already dead.
Out of my way!
That man is not Toki. His name is Amiba. Like me, he once trained in the art of Nanto Seiken. Amiba, you may be able to fool everyone else, but you can't fool me. You would go so far as to change your face?
I never thought you would show up here. But you're right, Ray. I am Amiba!
The only way I can think to describe the first two phases of this fight with Amiba are piss easy and super easy. You thought I was going to say something else, but no, I didn't. I gotcha. Just turn on your spirit mode and start using your uppercut kicks on him, and he'll be pretty much entirely helpless as long as you stay right next to him. You can even corner him, as I have been doing this entire fight.
You've lived far too long.
Come, my little toys! Help your master!
So Amiba is a super cheap asshole and summons 2 commanders to help him during a boss fight. Thankfully, that's what the pickups lying around the arena are for, unless you wasted them already. And if you did, then oh, I'm very sorry about that. You can still, of course, get many more Spirit Reserve units from the enemies just lying around. But trying to refill your Spirit gauge with them will be a bit of a hassle since, well, there's no physics objects to smash them into. Not unfairly difficult, mind you, just a bit hard. Still doable. And you can do it without getting hit if you're good. As I intend to, but we'll see how that goes. After you defeat these 2 commanders, Amiba reappears, but he still has goons with him, which makes the fight a lot more difficult.
Hokuto, Sankaiken! You are already dead.
You think you can stop me? I'm a genius! Your pathetic Hokuto Shinken won't touch a hair on my head!
You poor fool. A mere imitator like you will last 2 seconds against the true successor to the Hokuto Shinken legacy.
Aw man, and that was going so insanely well. I was about to beat him before he could even use his special attack. Which you're about to see. I think. Maybe not. Anyway, he has a projectile attack you haven't seen yet. It's difficult to block in time, and you can't really dodge it because it has way too many animation frames. Oh, there it is. It's virtually impossible for him to miss with it. It may as well be a homing attack. His aim is just so precise. The only way to get around it is either to have impeccable blocking timing, or just to get so close that he won't bother using it. And if you get smacked against a wall when he uses it, God help you. Because ow, does that hurt.
Punishment enough for the likes of you.
If you kill me, you'll never know where Toki is!
Wherever he is, I know he's too powerful to fall to the likes of you. These fists have seen more than you can imagine.